Mhm. Thank you for joining us for this episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers that work for themselves. People like me, Michelle Kane with Voice Matters, and my wonderful co host, Karen Swim of Solo PR Pro. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hi, Michelle. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well. By the time this hits, we'll have crossed that threshold into 2025.
Mm.
And here we are. And as promised, we're picking up from the previous episode of predictions for 2025. What's going to be hot in PR and our general communications world, and maybe what isn't, or maybe what hasn't quite taken off in the way we thought it would. I think the first thing we want to hit on is just the rise of, or perhaps a more intentional, deeper use of data driven storytelling, right? We recently had Lisa Gerber on, who again beautifully helped us understand the importance of telling our stories, whether that's our experiences, that of our clients, their companies, their purposes. But how can we as pros then best, you know, make sure that that is used to its full effectiveness on their behalfs?
Yeah, so there's that
Yeah.
creative, there's that storytelling side, but you also have to look at the analytical side of making sure that you're telling the right stories to the right audiences. And so
Mhm.
I believe that we will see PR pros go deeper into using metrics to be able to decide the stories that they will tell and where they will tell them. And some of the tools that we're already using, like Google Analytics and some of the metrics, I think that we'll start to look at them in fresh ways because up until recent years, we use those metrics in terms of reporting on our performance, on
Yeah.
measuring how our efforts did. But I believe that we will see more people embrace digging into those metrics to measure where they should be spending their efforts.
Yeah. I mean, that is the beautiful thing about that data. Not to geek out too much, but aside from, "Ooh, I got this many hits." Okay, well, then did anyone travel elsewhere on your website? Oh, did they, look at your services? Did they look at a specific service? Did they read any other blogs while they were there? And that truly can and should be informing other types of content that you create to
Well,
strengthen
yes.
that area. Mhm.
Absolutely, because it none of it matters if you cannot get your audiences to engage with that content. And
Right.
so I think, in addition to, I'm seeing more PR pros start to look at trends and start to look at what are the types of stories that people are hungry for, and then
Yeah.
looking at the stories you tell to see like how do I fit into that universe of storytelling. But also, there are some very cool, this is where technology can really be our best friend. There's some really cool tools that can show you not only the engagement on your story, but it can break it down to geographical
Mhm.
engagement. So, for example, if you're putting out something and it's just a rich piece of content that's getting quite a bit of engagement, you might in the past think, okay, we'll keep our same targeting, this work, this campaign is working, but maybe it's working in very specific states, which then allows you to really look at those states. So I think that we're going to get more granular in how we look at things. I also feel like that puts pressure on us
Mhm.
to re-educate clients, not about quantity of media coverage, but quality. So I hope that that leads to us being much more thoughtful and designing campaigns with fewer targets. So maybe it's grabbing an exclusive with that one publication that actually readers have engaged with, that's driven the most engagement around the stories that you're telling, as opposed to dispersing that out and among a number of publications, some that just don't perform very well for you. And that
Yeah.
includes very well read publications, because I've seen this where outlets that have, millions of readers and they have like the highest reach just don't drive engagement. And so we have to stop and say, why are we bothering? Why are we using our resources to target these people when we're not seeing the results on the other end? And re-educating clients that they have to take the focus off of the marquee, off of the logo,
Yeah.
and look deeper at, but does it matter?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's so true. And it's a similar to how I advise my social media clients sometimes. It's like, no, you don't have to post a gazillion things. Do one really well done post, target the right people with a little bit of a spend, doesn't have to be a lot. And that's where your success is going to lie. So yeah, we need it's the age old wisdom of finding where your people are and presenting yourself well in those spaces. So true. But of course, none of this matters if nobody trusts you, right? So that's
Yeah.
our next trend that we know is going to be very important in 2025 is trust building. Uh, do we really need to say why? I mean, just, with the ability for conspiracy theories and misinformation to travel faster than truth can fly, it's just more important than ever if your client is going to succeed in their enterprise, they have to be able to be trusted.
I completely agree. I mean, and we've seen the erosion of trust in institutions
Yeah.
over many, many years, but I feel like one of the trends next year, because it's important, you've got to have trust, you have to build advocacy. Advocacy leads to trust, it leads to, higher lifetime customer value. It has a lot of financial benefit as well as, just benefit to the reputation of the brand. So I feel
Yeah.
like public relations is going to get more deeply involved in trust building. And that will come through content, that will come through, really making sure that we are helping brands to be proactive against crises by stacking that bank of trust and being super thoughtful about what's put out, how it's put out, because we see this and we're seeing this explode in ways that are scary and dangerous, like what happened with the United Healthcare situation. And then
Yeah.
we saw the new CEO come in and say something that further eroded people's trust in healthcare institutions, which is unfortunate because then
Yeah.
they get painted with a broad brush and it really rubs off and tarnishes, other brands that may have a different way of thinking. So I think it's going to be really important to set yourself apart by being truthful.
Yeah.
And we toss around the words transparency and authenticity. And I hate to use those because they seem very overused, but I think it's really building that infrastructure
Mhm.
that supports being trusted. And so that's all of the touch points of the company. Again, I always go back to mission, vision, values. Those are more than just plaques on the wall or,
Yeah.
a line in your employee handbook. You really have to double down and make sure that they're being understood and lived and are able to be questioned.
Mhm.
When people are not living up to that, you need to empower your employees with a reporting mechanism that has a feedback mechanism that you take action on because sometimes there's a wink and a nod about things and I have never liked that, but I think
No.
that this 2025 is a year that you really need to stand strong in that. And that starts from, the top. It goes from the top, from the boardroom to the basement, as I always like to say. Um, so I hope that this is a not just a trend of the moment, but it's something that we all dig deeper in, believe in, and carry that out more forcefully in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, agree, agree. I mean, at the very least, those who are not transparent and trustworthy, it never ends well. It can take a while, but it never usually ends well. And let's be honest, don't I like to think that most times when people think of starting a venture, no matter how large or small, you want to be helpful to people, right? It's like, hey, I want you to buy my thing or my service because it will help make your life better. So believe that and act that way. And you're so right. When all of your employees are empowered with that ethos and know that they're expected to live it out, everybody wins. So to otherwise is just short-sighted. But,
Yeah.
what can I say? But so another trend we were looking at that we thought by now, oh my goodness, isn't there a song from the 60s? I'm not going to sing it in the year 2525. Well, it's 2525. Okay, we got 500 more years. Anyway, we all expected to be the Jetsons by now with our little saucer cars in the air. Maybe that's what the drones are. I don't know. Maybe by this time this hits, we'll know what they were. Um, but just the idea of AR and huge experiential um, uh,
Immersive
thank
experiences.
you.
Yeah.
Yes. We thought that they would be a lot more commonplace by now, right? And just they just haven't. I think part of that is as the pendulum swings out of 2020 and the pandemic, we're still eager for gathering together. I mean, I know I'm still kind of sick of Zooms, right? Let's do a Zoom. I'm like, do I have to? Or attend this conference virtually? I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch it at all. So no, I'd rather just go if I'm going to do it at all. And I think that does tie into what we thought was going to be a huge revolution and changing of people's behavior and interests, and it just really hasn't come to pass yet. Not saying it's never going to, but not yet.
It seemed like such a logical next step in technology, right? To go
Yeah.
from, you know, to this technology being able to discover things or being able to research to actually bring you into an experience that was very real. And it works in gaming culture.
Yeah.
But here's the funny thing about, predictions and trends. You can never count out human behavior. And
Right.
human beings, I think, to some degree, still find that a little creepy.
Yeah.
Not everybody is ready to step into immersive worlds. People are even pushing back against, video interviews because they're worried about the security of all of this technology and opening doors to that. And, as you said, we didn't count on people craving human interaction. We thought, this is great. We don't have to leave our house. We can do everything from here. And look at this. I can, click on a product and I can see how it looks in my house. And I could try on lipstick and,
Yeah.
eyeshadow, see how it looks on my face or glasses. And those things are very cool. Thank you very much. They're very cool. But do we want to live our lives like that? We don't want to live
Yeah.
our lives inside of a computer
No.
basically, which is what it feels like. It turns out we don't. We're not
Yeah.
there yet, and it's kind of like, electric vehicles. Everybody is like, "This is great. It's gonna be great for the planet, and it's gonna save you money on gas." And while all those things might be true, people's behavior said, not ready for that yet. Is there
Yeah.
an interim step? And so it's been a much longer time. I thought that by now solar panels would be on every house. Turns
Yeah.
out not true.
Yeah. No, exactly, because that feels like a no-brainer. Right?
Yeah.
And I think some of this could just be barriers, either psychological barriers to, "Ooh, that would be really hard to do. Where do I find someone?" All of that. I know I feel that way about the solar panels. I'm like, "Ooh, that'd be kinda cool, wouldn't it?" Similar to EVs, right? Because, next time my lease is up, will I wanna do that? I don't know, and I was just talking with someone about that last week. I said, I think if charging stations, like if there was a charging station at every gas station, it would be more of a you'd feel there was more of a gateway to usage, right? You think, oh, okay, yeah, this is going to be easy for me to adopt, so
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. Whereas if the ease of it is not apparent,
Yes.
I think it's less likely to be adopted as quickly, maybe as we're expecting or that we're projecting. But
I
yeah, it
love
doesn't.
that.
Yeah.
Michelle, you just hit on something,
Ooh.
ease. That's because
Yeah.
technology, we like with Chat GPT or generative AI, once Chat GPT made it easy for you to go in and type sentences, it just took
Yes.
off.
Yeah.
It's not that the technology itself was new, but it became accessible, and I
Yeah.
feel the same way about these immersive experiences. In some
Yeah.
ways, that does sound cool to be able to take, a webinar, because we still do attend webinars. We
Right.
have those in rotation and make it more of an interactive, immersive experience. But how accessible is that? Is the technology just built into the things that we use? Can everybody use it, or do you have to go and spend $1,500 on a pair of goggles to be able to access that. That's not reasonable for our audiences. And,
No.
I think that adding immersion to some of the even in-person stuff could be a way to bridge the gap of, like conference costs, because that's always a big complaint from people
Yeah.
is how much it costs to actually attend.
Yeah.
Um, but we're just not there. So once it gets to a point where it's offered and it's easy and
Yeah.
accessible to the masses, I think that we will see greater adoption. So I love that you brought that up, because that's something for us too. It's like
Yeah.
you can be way ahead of time and you can invent something that one day is going to be so crazy useful and so popular, but sometimes you may be a little ahead of time and you have to be patient. You have to be patient enough to allow it to get there and for people to come along with you.
Yeah. So true. I don't know. Why do I think if we still went to the mall, would one of the shops be an AR immersive experience store, right? Come in and have an experience.
Yeah, they try to do that at car shows, and it's
Yeah.
cool. Again, it's really cool in the moment, but, are we just doing that? It has it become a part of our routines and, do we do it with no, we don't. I
No.
mean, there's very limited exposure to AR, and I I believe that if you talk to man on the street, just man on the street interviews, took your mic around, that probably most people wouldn't even really know what AR is.
Right. That's true. So
Yeah.
true. Well, hey, we hope that you are inspired by this episode, thinking about what could be, what's going to happen this year. And if you are, please do share this around. We would really appreciate that. Hit us up at soloprpro.com. Leave us a review. That would be super helpful too. Hit us up over on our YouTube channel and subscribe. All those good things. And until next time, thanks for listening to That's Solo Life.